Welcome, everybody. Welcome to How I See It TV. I am your Jamaican Queen, Miss Y, and today we are going to continue our series, Accurate Context, The Truth About Candiace Dillard Bassett, Part 2. So, in part one, we delved into Candace's education, achievements, and her pre-RHOP jobs. Now, in part two, what I'm going to do is focus on the infamous townhouse that has been a hot topic of discussion. But to provide you with accurate context, I believe it's important to first break down what Candace was possibly earning from some of her previous jobs. This will help to understand her possible financial situation leading up to the purchase of that townhouse. Now, after we've explored what I think she was earning in some of these positions that she had before she joined the show, we'll then explore in some details the townhouse itself, including who bought it, when it was purchased, and how it was purchased. And I want y'all to understand one thing about me. I am new to these YouTube streets, but I like to come with facts. This is what this series is about. It's about facts. And so I went out of my way to pay for some records so that I could come to you with the truth about some of the information that I am going to present. It cost me $28 to get some background information on this townhouse. So I hope that you guys really enjoy this content and share it if you were one of the people who didn't believe Candace, or if you're one of the people who've always said, this townhouse conversation is just so crazy and you want more people to understand what Candace has been saying since she got on the show in season 3. But before we dive into all of this, I'm kindly asking you all to show your support by liking and subscribing to my channel. If you find my content insightful, and as we say in Jamaica, if you feel like this need crowd, feel free to share the link with your friends, your family, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, everybody. Just share the link. And don't forget to leave a comment because I value your perspective and I want to know how you see things as well. Because I want to know if you're actually enjoying the content. I've seen on my previous video on part 1, I had like 40 something views. And the reason why I'm even highlighting how many views that video had is because, as I said, I am new to YouTube, right? And I feel like I also want to document this journey because one day, sorry, y'all, I'm trying to enter my password. One day, I felt like I'm gonna upload videos, and as soon as a video drops, I am going to have like 1,000 views or 2,000 views or 80,000 views. And I'm going to look back at some of my first videos and say, wow, I remember when I first used to drop a video and I only got 40 something views. So that's why I'm outlining that. So let's get into it. As I said, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to How I See It TV. Push me up in the algorithm so that more people can come to my channel. Okay. All right. So let's get into this accurate context, the truth about Candiace Dillard Bassett, part 2. And as I said, we have to start with what she was potentially earning before she got on RHOP. So I told you guys that she used to work for the President Obama administration, and she held two positions, if you recall, in part one. She was a liaison in the Barack Obama administration. Basically, what her job title was. Oh, and she was also um, the intern associate. So basically, what her job was, she would sift through all the applicants who wanted to be interns for the White House at the time. And then she would also go out to different colleges and she would speak on some of the issues that the Black community wanted to learn about in terms of what President Barack Obama was doing for the Black community. Just go back to part one to get more information on that. I couldn't find exactly what Candiace was earning at the time. However, I pulled up some information from the Donald Trump's administration, right? And you can go to Google and look this up. There's like a whole PDF document outlining what the White House employees were earning during Donald Trump's reign as president. And for the position that Candiace held while she was working for the Obama administration, the person who had that same position in Donald Trump's administration was earning close to $65,000 a year, right? So I can assume that Candiace was making between 55 to 60,000 in that same position when she was working for the Obama administration, right? After she left her position as the intern associate and a liaison for the Barack Obama administration, oh, my phone keeps locking. Trying to pull up the information, y'all. Because as I said, this is accurate context. This is what it's all about, right? So after she left that position, she was a field organizer, right, for the Obama campaign. And in DC, the salary, the average salary, and again, these are just my assumptions, right? She could have been making less, she could have been making more. However, in DC, a field organizer, their average salary is $3,855 a month, right? At the highest level, a field organizer can make $5,463 or more. And this is information that I am getting from Indeed. So Indeed is giving that as the base salary. And when you go to Glassdoor, a field organizer in Washington, D.C., according to Glassdoor.com, their salary can range from $51,000 a year to $78,000 a year. So if we're supposed to put this into perspective, right? If we're supposed to put this into a little bit of perspective, Candiace was working for the Barack Obama administration. And then she was hired as a field organizer. So we can say that this was like internal recruitment then, right? So they already know what she brings to the table. So in my opinion, she wasn't getting the base salary. She wasn't getting the minimum. She probably signed on to that position and was earning at the highest level, which according to Glassdoor would be 71,000. The base pay would be between 51 to 78. So she would probably have been making at the highest at her highest, she could have been making 78,000 per year. And she held those positions for 2 years, if you go back to part 1 of this series, right? So again, accurate context. When she was working for the Barack Obama administration as a liaison and as an intern associate, my assumption was that she was making maybe 50 to 60,000 a year. She held that position for a year, right? And after that year, she moved to being a field organizer, and she could have been making between 51,000 to 78,000 for that year that she was working as a field organizer. So Candace is a smart girl. She has an MBA. She has parents who are financially sound. So if she's making this type of money in her 20s, right? Because Candace is just 36 now, and we're talking about 2008, right? In 2008, she was in her early 20s, if my math is right. So she was making between 55 to 78,000 in her early to late 20s working for the Obama administration. She has financially sound parents who were probably giving her sound financial advice. Candace has told us in interviews that she's had a bank account from as young as she can remember. Her parents were very focused on making sure that she had financial education. She was financially literate, right? So I'm also assuming that they were teaching her about saving wisely and investing wisely, right? Now, let's see. Rent in DC in 2008. Well, let's just say 2008, right? Okay. So if she's making between 5,000 a month, right? Let's just keep it at the lowest. She's making 5,000 a month. And in the District of Columbia, what I'm looking at rent data, I'm looking at rentdata.org, and we're talking about before before the purchase of this townhouse, right? According to rentdata.org, in 2008, rent in the Washington, D.C. area was between $1,025 to $2,235, right? I'm thinking Candiace was paying her rent by herself before she purchased the townhouse with her mom. She was taking care of herself. You're not making between 50,000 to 78,000 and depending on your parents to pay your rent, right? And remember, Barack Obama got into the White House in 2008. All right. According to rentdata.org in 2009, rent in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, in the Maryland area, because we don't know where she was living before the purchase of this townhouse was basically the same in DC, at the highest $1,647, and in Maryland she could have afforded a nice little flat at the highest. Well, let's start from the lowest, $725 or $1,505. So you see, I'm trying to put it into perspective what she was earning before she got on the Real Housewives of Potomac, while she was working for the White House, while she was working on President Obama's campaign. She was making between 55,000 to 78,000 a year, and in Maryland and in the DC area between 2008 to, all right, she purchased the townhouse, according to the records I found, was purchased in 2013, right? And in 2013, rent in Washington, D.C. area was between $1,130 at its lowest to $2,374. And in Maryland in 2013, rent was at the lowest $809 to $1,713. So none of you can tell me that with the jobs that Candiace had between 2008 to 2013, when that house was purchased, she wasn't able to take care of herself financially without the help of her parents and without the help of a man. Nobody's going to convince me of that. Okay? And you guys can go and do this research on your own if you're that interested. I'm sure none of you are interested. I'm just doing this for content. But if you don't believe what I'm saying, you can go Google this, right? I don't know how much money she won in 2010 when she won the pageant. I don't recall. I couldn't find that information. But Kenya Moore, when she won her pageant, I need to find the correct titles. I'm sorry, she actually won the Miss Candiace Dillard I'm talking about actually won the Miss United States title in 2013. Interesting. Interesting. So what that tells me is that because the townhouse from the records that I found was purchased in 2013 as well. Now, I don't know. Oh, wait, I can actually tell you in what month. it was purchased. But I'm not going to go that far because that's a lot of personal information to be given to the internet. Okay, so the townhouse, let's get into the townhouse now, right? The townhouse was purchased in 2013, and the records that I found paid my little coins, paid my coins, and I found that the townhouse was purchased in 2013, and Candice and her mom, Miss Dorothy Watts, did purchase that house together. Let's rewind. Let's rewind. Chris told us in an interview with Alex Salter that Candice was a marketing executive, and I got some information that I found. I'm not going to tell you all my sources, but at some point, she was also a finance director for a restaurant called Ping Pong in DC. Y'all can call Ping Pong up and find out if that's a lie. And this is no allegedly, okay? And at some point, I think at the point when she met Chris, she was working as the guest services coordinator for the W Hotel. Now, a guest services coordinator, salary in DC. I'm typing this in, y'all. At the lowest, and this is according to salary.com, at the lowest, a guest services coordinator makes between $35,000 to $50,000 a year. Another site says that at the lowest, a guest services coordinator can make between $45,000 to $61,000 a year. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Between $51,480 to $61,574 a year is what a guest services coordinator in the Washington, D.C. area can make. So with Candice's background as a bachelor's holder with experience in the White House, experience in marketing, I'm thinking she was earning at the highest. And when I go to another site, they say that in Washington, D.C., a guest services coordinator, and this is at jobber.org says that a guest services coordinator in the Washington, D.C. area can make $166,000 a year. Okay, and they say this data is taken from 721 real wages. So I'm trying to give y'all insight. And the guest services coordinator job that Candice held, she had this job after she won that 2013 title. And this was before RHOP, right? So when we put that all into perspective, she was making all this money. Are we really still going to sit and say that she was not able to take care of herself? We're going to continue that narrative because what? Ashley said it, because Monique Samuel said it. Back to the townhouse. It was purchased by Dorothy Watts and Candiace Dillard in 2013. Chris told us, and Bravo TV told us, and People Magazine told us that Candiace met Chris in 2015. The townhouse was purchased in 2013, and Candiace met Chris in 2015. Chris told us that when he first met Candiace, working at that hotel chain where she was an executive, she was having a dinner party, and he suggested that she was saying that she has, this huge kitchen that she doesn't really use. And he was like, "Oh my God, you're having a dinner party. Let me come cook for you since you have this nice kitchen. You know, I'm a chef, blah, 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 blah." They were just friends, they were just coworkers. And she was like, "No, thank you. I'm good." So when Chris said on the reunion last season that when he met Candace, her and her mom bought this property from 2013 as an investment property. And as a boyfriend, he wasn't going to come in and start paying a mortgage on a house that he wasn't even living in at the time. Chris didn't move in to that house until he and Candace were basically almost married. Even when they were engaged, Chris told us that he still had his apartment. That wasn't his house. That house belonged to Mama Dorothy and Candace. And for us to say, "Oh, Chris should have been helping to pay the mortgage," that makes no sense. This home wasn't a homestead, y'all. It was an investment property. So we went down in part one, we went down the list of all of Candace's jobs and all her accomplishments and all the businesses she owned before she met Chris, before she got on RHOP. And these businesses, y'all, they are still open today. She was making money before RHOP. She was earning enough where if she was investing wisely and saving wisely, and her mom says, as part of my parenting, I have been saving all this money for you in a trust. And what I want to do with part of that money is give you half the down payment of your first home. But what I want us to do is pool our money together and buy this house as an investment. And in a couple of years, it's going to be worth almost $1 million. And we'll sell it and we will split the profits. And that's exactly what Candace and Mama Dot did. She brought the deed to the reunion in season 4 and showed that her name was on the deed. I think it was either season 3 or season 4 reunion. She brought the deed and she showed that it was her and her mom that was on the deed because they bought the house together. I paid my $28 subscription to truthfinders.com, where you get access to all these public records. I think they take it too far with having some of these people's numbers and email address on their site. But I did the digging, y'all, and she did own that townhouse. So when Ashley was in her house talking about, I know you're not talking, when you're in your mom's house, when Ashley's mama didn't own a house, a pot to pee in, or a window to throw it out of, and they wanted to clown Candiace over and over and over again because her mom and herself made a sound financial decision and bought a house together when Candiace was just in her 20s. I think it's ridiculous to be still clowning her over that. Go find the information yourselves, y'all. All right, so thank you for listening to Accurate Context. The Truth About Candiace Dillard Bassett, Part 2. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until the next video, walk good. Bye.